In this video, I'm going to discuss how I'm going to evaluate your skills. Whether you're brand new to driving or you have experience, I evaluate the skills in the same way. Especially if you happen to be thinking that you're ready for your road test, or some students will think that, hey, all they need to do is work on their K-turn and their parallel parking. But that all depends. In some students, that's the case. Others, they got a lot to work on yet. So the first thing I'm going to introduce my students to is our check sheet here, okay? So the check sheet basically is the New York State road test. The differences between this here is obviously it's not a state document, but this is nowadays they put it all on a computer, where here it's all on paper. But the errors and the points are exactly the same. Same things that they're looking for, and they're going to catch you on, okay? And then basically your instant disqualifiers along with your errors. Now, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and you'll notice like there's a whole bunch of different errors. And what they're going to be evaluating the skills on your road test, as well as during our first appointment, is I'm going to be looking for seeing how you handle like leaving the curb, how you handle your intersections and turning, your backing and your K-turns, driving in traffic, then vehicle control. And what I'm looking for is yes, I'm looking for you to be a good driver, but more importantly is being a safe driver. Now, I have people say, hey, Bob, all I want to do is learn how to pass the road test. Well, that's fine. Asking an instructor to simply teach you how to pass the road test or teach you the road test, you're wasting your money because you're not getting a good quality teaching. A good instructor is going to teach you how to be a safe driver, and if you have the skills to be a safe driver, then passing the road test is almost automatic. The exception of you having to show up for it. Okay? So, let's start off with leaving the curb. Okay, so leaving the curb. Oh, by the way, if you happen to take a look at all the different errors here, okay, you got different. The bigger the error, the bigger the points. Okay, and they range anywhere from a minimum of 5 points up to 15 points each. One of the other things to also remember is, for your New York State road test, if you get 30 or more points, you're going to fail. Okay, that's an automatic fail. The other other automatic failures, which I'll show down here. Okay, your automatic disqualifiers also are going to be you get into a wreck, and it doesn't matter if you hit something, you hit anything, be it car, curb, animal, human, garbage can, trees, anything. Okay. A wreck is a wreck, okay? Serious violation. Well, any moving violation. So if you go one over the posted, you're speeding, that's going to be a fail point. You roll through that stop sign, even if it doesn't matter. You could be 99.9999999% stopped. But if you're not 100% stopped, you're not stopped at all. Dangerous action, okay? You do something dangerous or that really makes that examiner nervous, okay? So let's just say you happen to cut somebody off. All right, you make a near miss. It could also be something, maybe you just make a bad choice, okay? That could have ended up you getting into a wreck, okay? Or you just simply rack up more than 30 points, which is saying, hey, you're not ready yet. You got to practice more, all right? I'll come back to that shortly. Okay, so let's talk about leaving the curb, because that is basically what sets the tone for your road test and your lesson, and how I teach. Okay, so I typically teach everybody a technique for leaving the curb because I want to make sure that they're doing safely. So that's not necessarily a deal breaker if you don't leave the curb the perfect way or anything like that, but This is one of the big things, okay? Because like I said, anytime you leave the curb during your road test, mind you, right there, you can get 20 points just by leaving the curb the wrong way, right? And they can get you those points anytime during the road test. So what are they looking for? And what am I going to be looking for to say, yes, your road test ready or not? All right. Are you observing? You got to be looking around. Observation is your number one road test killer, okay? So make sure your observation is good. You're looking around 360 degrees. You're checking everything. You make sure it's clear before you go, okay? You're using your turn signal, okay? And then you also got to be checking your blind spots. You can't just use your mirrors only, okay? Now, if you look at your points here, failing to observe, that's a big one. That's 10 points, okay? Fail to signal, not using your mirrors, those are 5-pointers. But at the very beginning, and I've seen it happen, sometimes the students just they just get a little nervous and happen to pull away from the curb without doing it right. So they can get that 20 points right there at the beginning. In fact, not only at the beginning, but anytime during your road test. So where can they get you? All right, so leaving the curb to start your test, okay? You leave the curb to go into to do your K-turn or 3-point turn. Those terms are used interchangeably, okay? When you leave the curb after doing your parallel park, okay? You're getting ready to pull away from getting done there, okay? Or anytime you have to go to the curb, you might have to go to the curb on a narrow road to make room for the oncoming traffic. And especially if you happen to be tucked between two cars. You really need to be very cautious about how you leave the curb. So if I'm your instructor, I will teach you how to not, or at least how to avoid getting these 20 points, okay? Because if you get these, especially at the beginning, you have an uphill battle to make sure to be able to pass. And keep in mind, depending on the situation, they might even be able to multiply them or attach other items to these errors. We'll show that in a little while. All right, so you got your turning and intersections. All right. So what I'm going to be looking for as I'm evaluating your skills, okay? How do you handle them? How's your judgment and how you handle them, okay? How's your speed? Are you coming up on them at a safe and prudent speed? All right. Now, by safe and prudent, before I get ahead of myself, that means, is it safe and is it prudent? Is it appropriate for that particular situation, okay? Doesn't matter if it's legal or not. Is it safe and prudent, okay? So, your speed, your observation. Are you looking them over? Are you looking them over as you're coming up on them? Before you're about half a block or so away from them. You're scanning them over, seeing what's happening up there, all right? As you're going through them, you're checking them, making sure everything's safe, okay? Everything from half a block or at least several buildings away, all the way through until you're totally through that intersection, okay? You got to be looking them over. Your turns. Are you making good turns? Are they smooth? Are you getting into the correct lane? Are you using your signal? Now, you need to turn your signal on 100 feet from your intersections, okay? And 100 feet is anywhere between 2 and 3 of neighborhood houses, okay? Stopping, well, are you stopping and coming to a complete stop and stopping in the right positions? And depending on where you stop can make a difference between you being counted as a proper stop on your road test, okay? All right. So, when you come up on your intersection, so are you getting out, failing to stop, you need to be able to get yourself out to the middle of the intersection to make a left turn, okay? So that's I'm going to be looking at, that's where the failure to stop near the center of the intersection, okay? So I'm going to come over here to where this little sketch is, all right? So if you're making a turn, improvise my pointer here. Okay, so here's my pointer. Here's your car, okay? So you're coming up here. You need to, and you got oncoming traffic especially, you're going to come out to the middle of the intersection. Wait your turn. then make a nice 90-degree turn here, okay? You don't want to be starting your turn too soon. You don't want to be starting your turn back here, but again, you want to make sure that you're making your turns properly, okay? If you have oncoming traffic, you're getting out there in the middle, waiting your turn, and going only when it's safe. So there's a few little things into the getting out to the middle of the intersection, okay? Now take a look at your right and left turns. Are they too wide or too short? All right. Are you paying attention to traffic? Are you doing what the signs, signals, and lane markings are telling you to do? Okay. Driving in traffic. Parking and K-turns, those are the last things I typically will check, okay? Because I want to see that you can master basically everything that's for driving the car forward before going backwards, okay? Which is probably the most important part. Now, on your road test, they can whack you with your K-turns and parallel parking anytime during a road test. I've seen them where they can, they right when they start, that's the first thing they do before you even leave to get too far away from where you start your road test. All depends on the examiner and how they want to handle your road test. So I can't say anything for, how they do anything. So driving in traffic, okay? Failing to keep right. So you got to be on the right side of the road. You got your oncoming traffic, so you got to be over here where you belong, okay? Improper lane for traffic. Okay, so this covers a couple different things, okay? So this could be like you're driving, are you driving in your bike lanes, bus lanes, turning lanes, parking lanes, the lane that is not meant for you to be driving in, okay? It could also include, let's just come back here. Let's say you make a bad left turn. You come into the oncoming traffic, okay? Or even a right turn, okay? You happen to come into oncoming traffic. That's another one they can whack you with the improper lane, all right? So that's what I'm going to be looking for. Following too closely. Are you giving good following distance, okay? Should have at least 3 seconds, okay? We'll cover that when we start talking about speed. All right. Speed is safe for access for traffic, weather, and road conditions. Again, it might be, in most cities, the posted is usually 30 miles an hour. But is it safe and prudent to drive at 30 miles an hour? In most cases, like on residential side roads, absolutely not. In most cases, somewhere between 20 to 25 is the prudent speed, safe and prudent, okay? Not driving too slow to where you're holding up traffic. So if you're on a main road and roads are in good shape, well, you don't need to be doing 10 miles an hour. But at the same time, you want to make sure you're doing just under the posted on your road test. All right. And legally, whatever the posted in that area is what is the fastest you're legally allowed to go. Even if the sign's not there, if the citywide posted speed limit is 30, 31, no, not acceptable. You're going to fail. And legally, a cop can pull you over and write you for it. Poor judgment in traffic. So typically they're going to... Oh, I'm sorry. I just skipped that there, didn't I? Okay, so failing to yield right away to pedestrians and others. Okay, so the second the pedestrian steps in a crosswalk, whether it's marked or not, okay? We'll go back to my drawing here, okay? So if you have a sidewalk here and here, you're coming up, okay? It doesn't matter. It can be this crosswalk or this crosswalk if you're going straight. Okay? They have right of way as soon as they step in there. Even if they happen to have the red light. Okay? If the crosswalk happens to be mid-block, same thing. You got a pedestrian that steps in that crosswalk. In New York State, you have to stop, and those crosswalks must be empty before you drive towards them or through them. Okay? Not only will you fail your road test, but if a cop sees you do that, yeah, they're going to want to talk with you. All right. Okay, so you're yielding right away to others. Okay, so that's going to be the other driver. Typically, if you're driving, I'm going to use residential roads as for more of an example. So parking is on your side of the road. You got an oncoming car. You have to tuck over and give them right of way, okay? You don't necessarily have to go to the curb, but you got to make sure their side of the road is open so they can get through without being blocked off, okay? And again, you definitely want to make sure you do that sweep before you set up and sweep before you leave the curb, because well, you're got to be cautious. Okay, all right. Let's talk about when changing lanes. You check, observe, signal, and use caution. So this means observation is you're looking around, making sure it's clear. You're checking those blind spots. You need to actually twist and look. You can't just check, glance at your mirrors. Okay. Signal, you got your signal on. I usually obviously, I think these observation and signal should be switched around, because you're going to signal, check, then go. All right, but when you go, you also want to make sure it's clear. So again, your signal, you're looking, it's clear, you start over, but then you're going to be using caution. So what's that mean? Well, you're going to maneuver your vehicle over to the into the lane that you want to go into smoothly, cautiously, and you're also going to check at least a couple times before you get yourself until you're totally, completely into that lane. Okay, we'll discuss those. All right, so fails to anticipate the actions of pedestrians and others. Okay, so here you got to read people's minds and their body language. All right. Pedestrians. So let's just say you see somebody standing alongside the road or at the crosswalk or at the intersection, right? Are they waiting for a bus? Are they waiting for a ride to pick them up? Okay. People getting in and out of cars. Okay. You're driving through the neighborhood. You want to make sure they're not going to step out in front of you or fall or anything like that, especially if, just say if it happens to be icy conditions, or maybe somebody might be older or look like they might not have very good mobility, right? Okay, so there's going to be other drivers, okay? Are they going to stop for that stop sign? Are they going to yield right away to you? Are they going to do the things that they're supposed to do that are safe, okay? Anticipating the potential hazards. So this covers a lot, okay? So a good example that I like to use is when the weather's decent, okay? Those of us who live in New York State, we know we get, 13 months of winter. And we happen to get that 2 weeks where we get decent weather. So that's construction season. So you might have road work. You might have people doing things out in their front yard. Okay. You might have the family and their kids playing out there. They're cutting the grass. You got somebody out there maybe working on their car. You're looking for everything that can potentially be a problem. Okay. And you got to make sure you can get yourself and plan your way around it. All right. So vehicle control, poor engine control. So what's that mean? You want to see that you can accelerate smoothly and hold a steady speed. All right. You're not too heavy on the gas, not too light on the gas, and not on and off. You don't want to be doing that either. Okay. So like I said, nice steady speed. You're smooth. Everything's good. Okay. Poor steering control. Do you have problems with turns, straight driving, and maneuvers? Okay. Maneuvers being mainly your K-turn, your parallel park, or maybe if you might need can you squeeze yourself between a couple of vehicles and make different changes in direction? Okay. All right. Delayed and abrupt braking. So that means you're basically too heavy on the brake, too light on the brake, or too late starting to brake. So typically you want to start your braking maybe 2 or 3 houses back, driving through your neighborhoods, right? Get majority of your braking done in that first couple houses, and then that last, 2 or 3 car lengths, you're just basically finishing it off nice and smooth, okay? Poor use of gears. So that means you can't, if you happen to be driving a manual transmission, you can't drive a stick shift, you can't coordinate the clutch and the gears and all that. You're like a mess when it comes to driving the stick shift, okay? For the automatics, okay, so all of our vehicles are automatic. So what poor use of gears is not going to be is, let's say, for example, you have to go for reverse, okay? And you happen to hit park, but you pop it right in reverse right away, no hesitation. Usually that's not going to be a problem, okay? If you're going back and forth looking for reverse or any gear like that, well, then yeah, they're going to probably get you for poor use of gears. But more so, and I've seen it happen, again, they'll be in the wrong gear. They'll be in reverse. Then they'll go backwards, okay? So that's one of the things. There's a couple tips I'll mention to students how to avoid getting that poor use of gears, okay? And depending on the situation, that might be considered as a dangerous action and can result in a fail, okay? Now, another thing to remember, another point that I want to make too, is they can actually add other things onto this. So let's just say you're driving along, okay? And you make that short left, okay? So they're going to get you here in your intersections, okay? They're going to whack you 10 points because you made a bad turn. Yeah, 10 points. Not a deal breaker, right? Not the end of the world. You got 20 more to go. But watch this. Now they're going to come down here, okay? They're going to whack you another 5 for that shot, for that short left. You're up to 15. You're halfway through it. Okay? We're going to come down here. You're failing to keep to the right side of the road because you lingered too. So let's say you made that left turn here, but you started way too soon. Okay? You made that crescent shape. Well, you're hanging out in this lane too long. They're going to get you for failing to keep right. So now we're up to 25. Okay? They're going to decide to get you another 10 because you want to coming over on the wrong side of the middle of the road. You got to coming over on this side just a little bit, or even totally over. Either way, if you're not on your own side of the road, they're going to get you for this one here, the improper lane for traffic. Okay? So now you got a bunch of stuff that they can whack you on. All right? Or, in fact, one of the things that they'll also throw in there is like there's the number 21 here, down here, for poor judgment in traffic. You pretty much just have one single mistake. You failed your road test. Okay? So you can understand that when I have students that say all they want to do is do their K-turn and parallel park, I want to make sure that, okay, they're actually ready to do this. Because back in the car opens you up to other risks, okay? So we're going to talk real quick with backing and K-turns. Okay, so signaling. You got to signal to the curb, off the curb, okay? Making sure that you are observing and using caution, okay? Again, you got to be looking out the back window. If the car's rolling backwards, you got to be looking out the back window, okay? Mirrors, backup cameras, things like that. They'll actually get you on that one, okay? So don't get in the habit of using those, okay? And we'll talk about techniques on that during the lesson. All right. So can you park properly? Okay? Meaning, can you get it done? And can you get it done without getting hung up or hitting the curb, okay? Same thing with your 3-point turn or your K-turn, okay? Can you get it done without hitting the curb or getting stuck, okay? And by the way, for the New York State road test, those are 15 points apiece, and yeah, those are big ones. You really need to be able to at least get them accomplished, okay? So let's talk about what things that people are a little too nervous about, okay? So getting close enough to the curb. Okay, well, maybe an excessive maneuver, okay? So let's talk about excessive space. So you got to get within 12 inches of the curb, all right? If you're 13, 14 inches, let's just say everything else is going, well, examiner might or might not give you those 5 points. But even if they did, guess what? That's only 5 points, right? You get 5 points. You still pass your road test, so you get 5 points, okay? I'd rather see somebody get 5 points rather than a chance hitting that curb, all right? Okay. And excessive maneuvers. So this would be, say, for example, like with your 3-point turn, okay? Your K-turn. You're doing your K-turn, and you got to fix it because maybe you didn't quite get your angles right. You got to back up and turn it into a 5-point, okay? Well, they might give you 5 points. They might give you 5 points on that one, okay? When it comes to, but then again, I would rather see somebody get the 5 points and they complete it because, again, if you can't complete them, those are 15s on each one, right? I'd rather see someone get 5 points because they had to fix it. I'd rather see somebody get 5 points for being too far away from the curb, okay, and pass their road test. Now, little thing I want to warn people about when it comes to being too far away from the curb. So we're only talking maybe a few inches, maybe a foot. You know, you can't be like half a car width or anything out like that. Okay, you need to make every effort to fix it and everything before you put it in park. And again, at least the examiners in our area, they try to use a little bit of discretion, but the thing is, if you make the error, they're going to check the boxes on things. Okay, so but during the evaluation, I tell my students not to focus on the points, because I don't keep the points, during my evaluations. I'm just to use this as a tool to find out where you're at, okay? And if you're ready for your road test, and or at the very least, I can say, here's the stuff we got to work on before we get into the bigger stuff like your through backing and K-turns, okay? Hope this video helps, and hope to see you in class. Bye.